let's go on to the Zygon
Invasion. So I gave Zygon Invasion originally an A, and now I am giving it an A.
Clever.
It is still a paranoid thriller of a kind that you sort of don't necessarily see in Doctor Who that much, where the stakes are high, the action is quick, there are parallel plot lines, all of which are exciting. The return of Osgood, she doesn't play a huge role, but she is nevertheless appreciated part.
Yeah,
she's as fun as before. The other characters are working, and also it benefits from us being confused. The episode is about chaos enveloping the world, basically, and we are just as confused as the characters. What is the goal? What's the plan? Truth or consequences? What the hell is this about? We don't even know their ideology for I think most of it.
Yeah, we can kind of pick up on it, especially from the name Truth or Consequences, as in truth, we are Zygons, or consequences, you die.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was all great. And I gave it originally an A, and I bumped it down to a B+, in part, just for that scene in
the really terrible
Zygon.
scene.
The terrible scene. For the fact that
The terrible scene is the scene where the Zygons convince a bunch of soldiers that
that
totally
was,
for real, not Zygons, even though it's extremely suspicious and they would obviously not be believed.
Yeah, that was a scene that I did not love, and I think I tend to grade harsher the more I think about something.
Mm-hmm.
And that my grade is being affected by the fact that I'm kind of comparing it more broadly, because to a certain extent, we love doing these videos.
Sure.
And we love doing them, especially right after we watched it, when we're very excited, because we're going to have this conversation anyway.
Yeah.
If there was no camera here, the only difference is that we'd be sitting in two different chairs that wouldn't look good.
The main difference, as far as I'm concerned, is that we sit down and force ourselves to hash it all out.
Yeah.
Rather than maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, where you can maybe drop some of your thoughts. It's good to be able to have a camera to deliver things to.
Yeah.
Helps me focus.
Yeah, and so the sort of the down part, the down shot of that to me, which is, I'm not saying this is a bad thing to do, I love this, is that as a result, I'm still riding of the high of the fact that I love to watch Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
And I love hanging out with you. So it leaves me in just a mood where I'm saying, good day. Saturdays especially are rough days for me. So I say, good day, this was great. It's sort of my opinions being upped a little. I'm not necessarily comparing it to everything else I could.
Mm-hmm.
So I did down it to a B+. I don't think it. I think it was a little hectic. I think the parts with no, I liked these parts with
Kate Stewart?
yes.
Okay.
By God, why do I not know her name? Kate Stewart. I liked these parts. They were a little unnecessary.
Ultimately, they didn't play out. But it gave us an idea of the fact that the Zygons were global, that here is yet another story of how the Zygon attacks and Zygon aggression is causing problems for this character, that character. Basically, the idea is there's a whole world of Zygon stories happening, and we don't see them all, but here are 3.
Yeah, it didn't play in as much as for me as into an overall story, either of this episode or the next episode, as I would have liked. I felt it inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That is another scene. I love these characters in an isolated environment, and I love post-apocalyptic cops. Walking Dead. Not actually a fan of that show, but still. I love post-apocalyptic cops who are not in The Walking Dead. So
Zygon Clara is a good reveal at the end. There's a good, good cliffhanger. and
Yeah. So
that will lead us into the next episode, unless you have any other thoughts.
yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say like the only thing really that added was allowing us to be faked out about Kate Stewart, which there's no reason that Kate Stewart showing up flanked by Zygons can't allow us to think she's a Zygon. I got her name right.
Good work.
Next part.
Zygon inversion. I gave it an A originally, and I gave it an A.
I gave it an A originally, and I gave it a B plus.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have since rewatched it and taken into account some criticisms you had at the time, which have changed my view of it. It does seem to largely set up that last scene.
Mm-hmm.
It is an episode setting up the last scene now. I loved that last scene. That was one of my favorite scenes. And judging it just on that scene, it would be one of my favorite episodes. It's a case where I'll say I'll rewatch that episode, but it's probably not as good as it could be. Because, again, it was a little inefficient there. But
I'm on board because it's not exactly breakneck action, but the stuff we're seeing in the story, this is not redundant. When you had the Ghosts episode under the lake before the flood, it was like, okay, there was ghost action in the first one, and then there's some ghost action in the next one.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit what we've seen now.
Yeah.
Zygon inversion, it feels like an inversion.
Yeah.
Suddenly we have a new protagonist, and I've said it in the review. I think Bonnie is the protagonist.
Bonnie's great.
She has Clara's face. That one.
Bonnie's great.
Bonnie's
Actually,
the protagonist. Is her choice that is most important. Suddenly we have a new protagonist. We have a new relationship between Bonnie and Clara to explore. Yeah, go ahead.
bump it up to A minus for Clara Oswald Oswald's. Yes, the actress is named Clara Oswald Oswald. For that performance of making me see Bonnie as see a person who is just looks like her in a show she's on in the same shot as her at times, believe she is a totally different person.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of actors who cannot do that. Matt Smith, much as I loved him, could not do that. I could not see Cyber Controller as someone else. So
Yep, that's true.
let's go.
But let's see. Other things to say. Yeah, she's great in that. We get an understanding of the stakes for the Zygons through that Zygon who gets converted back to Zygon form.
Yep.
Then we have the great finale scene. We have a place where, even though Osgood was not perhaps as active as a participant in the action as I think would have been preferable, nevertheless it all ties back together thematically.
Yep.
When Bonnie takes on that new role, and I feel that the idea of what Osgood is, that concept of being two races, is vindicated, I guess.
Yep.
Would be the word. So those are my thoughts.
I thought, yeah, this was a case where I didn't mind Osgood not being as much of a character, because they did a lot with the idea that Osgood is not a character, not a person.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, that was almost a theme, that you can just become Osgood. Osgood, as we've said, is a choice.
Yeah.
So, now we are going into...
No more.
Yes.
Sleep no more. Now, quickly, apparently I read some reviews. People said this one was boring. It was not boring.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
This was,
but it was not boring.
Yeah, this has been, I think, pretty universally declared by many people, not the best episode. They don't like this. A lot of people don't like it.
Yeah. So originally, I gave it a here it is, B+, and I decided to be more fair, be less emotional, and give it the C that it deserved.
I gave it a C+. I think it only deserved a C.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's a situation, and I tend not to want to let my talking to other people change what I think so too much. At the same time, I am not the only person Doctor Who is made for. I have talked to many people, almost unanimously, even among people I respect, because there are fans of Doctor Who I will talk to about the show, who I don't really respect their opinion. I don't think they're... I will express my opinion. I will hear their opinion. I just like talking. Shocking. But I don't respect what they say about Doctor Who, because I think they're kind of doofuses.
Mhm.
People I respect say that the sleep monsters were just too ridiculous.
I can't say I disagree.
And
Depends on what they mean by too ridiculous.
too ridiculous to take seriously, just it kind of ruined the episode for them.
Oh, I don't relate to that.
Yeah, I don't relate to it ruining the episode, but I'm going to be fair and take that into account and knock that plus off of the end of the sea for maybe it is a step too far. Maybe I'm someone who just likes stupid shit happening. I just like crazy things that make no sense. So maybe I should consider, even though I can only give you my opinion, maybe I should at least consider tempering my opinion with, to try to take out just the thing like, aha, crazy sleep monster, awesome. And the strength of it was that last shot, that last thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, like some people I know have, say it's terrible for being found footage.
That's absurd.
Yeah. I think it's important to judge something on what it is trying to do. It's
Yep.
like, it'd be like if I were to listen to a dubstep song and say,
The counterpoint is all wrong. It's like he's not even trying to do counterpoint.
Yeah, or to say, oh, this
Bach would be ashamed.
or more accurately to say, this is awful because it's dubstep. And,
Yeah.
Or, there's a person in a forum I'm on who does not like to read, and they consider an adaptation of a short story, or a short novel, to have been drastically improved because it was no longer a book and they didn't have to read it. Which, with all due respect to them, I'm going to say I don't think I can fairly say you've made a mistake by choosing a medium or a storytelling form I don't like. So,
Yeah.
judging it on its own, I can't knock it off for being found footage, even if I don't like found footage. I like the cheesiness of found footage. I think that's part of why I was able to deal with sleep monsters. Because I watch found footage movies because they're shit. So,
But this was better than Paranormal Activity, though. Incidentally, like perhaps most movies I've seen.
look,
I should start a Paranormal Activity hating blog.
You see this like lukewarm energy drink
Better movie than
that is now
Paranormal
Flash.
Activity.
That was a better experience for me than watching Paranormal Activity.
But this was a C. It was quick paced, which is a bonus. The atmosphere was sometimes effective. The sleep monsters are absurd. I can nevertheless get into it somewhat, but ultimately this is an episode that gets completely let down because it's a tangled mess that never explains itself properly. What are the sleep monsters? Are they corpses? Are there corpses inside? Are they all consumed? Are they things that ate people's eyes and then left them? Like, I assume that... What is this? We don't know. And mystery is sometimes a bad thing. Because it's not clear exactly what's going on. When Rasmussen, our villain man, is giving a spiel at the end about the person who's been sleeping for 5 years or whatever, I'm like, is that bad? Is that good? I don't understand. I don't have a baseline to understand what's going on.
Yep, and also, all due respect to The Mill, or who I believe The Mill still does it.
Does it? I forget.
If it's not The Mill, all due respect to you, I am pretty sure they wanted you to make the last one very large.
It was just the same size.
Largely, the camera is above the head of the monster that you have given it. That would mean that the monster is followed by a tiny fleck of sleep dust that just hovers statically. That was a problem, and again, this story is not resolved. They didn't even give me enough of a hint to say maybe it was resolved. They didn't. If it had just ended with a sonic screwdriver sound effect,
Yep.
I would not mind never seeing this again.
Because you would assume that the Doctor had solved it.
Yeah, I would
Now, on
say.
some level, I feel like you shouldn't judge the story by that. Maybe the Doctor can lose sometimes. But when the Doctor loses like this, is he lost because he never did the Doctor thing?
Yeah,
He never actually... It's like they forgot Act 3.
yeah.
Or rather, like the last couple scenes of Act 3 of the Doctor Who episode. Where this is a Doctor Who episode, there's a reason that they have the format. He's supposed to figure out what's going on. But
Yeah.
but he's like, well, none of this makes sense, and he
Well,
exits the episode. He
here's
actually
the-
says those words.
Yeah.
Or
Here's the thing
you know,
for me: the way Capaldi was performing these scenes, maybe I'm mistaken. I got the impression the Doctor had a plan.
Yeah.
That the Doctor, as soon as he got on the TARDIS, was going to wheel her out and be like, "Clara, here is my brilliant plan. I couldn't tell you because there was sleep in your eye."
Yeah.
And then he was going to fix it.
I'm not sure, but
and that's that is just my interpretation. But the thing is, you're right. The Doctor can lose sometimes.
yeah.
The Doctor losing so hard that humanity
Dies.
is dead.
I mean, this is a loss that is equivalent to many of the season finales
Yeah,
of Doctor Who.
yeah.
These are the stakes of season finales. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, you've gotta. If just like this, if it was just like one colony of 500 people, the Doctor losing would hurt, and I would hope he would react to that a little more than he does. But I wouldn't mind not coming back to that. Humanity's dead. We lost. Everything after this is after the end of humanity.
Yeah.
Those flying space people at the end of time with the Master and John Sims and all that, they don't exist. They're dead. They're sleep monsters.
But
So,
so there's
The
that last-
Doctor, I will give this a bonus. Or if later somebody deals with the fact that the Doctor lost.
Mhm.
Because that's another problem. If the Doctor loses, he has to react to it.
This would be something I'd be down for a sequel.
Yeah.
It would have to be a completely different form, no found footage, completely different thing. He's like, what? Sleep monsters? Oh, fuck!
He'll start playing Malcolm Tucker again.
Yeah.
Fucking sleep monsters. I fucking hate fucking sleep. This is fucking crawling in your eye, taking your body. You're a fucking sleep monster. I'm going to destroy the fucking sleep monsters and shove them up your ass.
So, last scene was creepy and shivers down my spine, etc.
Like spooky, scary skeletons.
Like those.
Time check?
Yeah, time check.
Alright, picking up.
So, that brings us to the first in the three-part finale, Face the Raven. Originally, I gave this an A. I was a little over-enthusiastic. I give it a B+ now.
Alright. Originally, do you want to...
Well, yeah, actually, I think that's a better way. So, I give it a B+ because it is a very good story about Clara making a decision and facing the consequences. It is also, for some reason, a half-hearted murder mystery.
Yeah, yeah.
It is not a good mystery because and I figured out why. Before I was
This guy loves mysteries.
I love them a lot. And the problem is this, before I didn't even identify that there was a problem because I was too distracted by other stuff. But as a murder mystery, I couldn't have watched this raw and ever have thought that any explanation besides probably Lady Me could ever be satisfying. What if it's this werewolf guy? Who gives a damn? What if it's the fish man, the black guy with glasses? So what?
Who cares?
Is it her son? Probably not. Maybe it is, but I don't know him. Maybe he did kill her, but it wouldn't mean anything.
Yeah, it was almost an inverted murder mystery.
in that.
In that it was prove that Rigsy didn't do it, but the problem with that is I knew Rigsy didn't do it.
Yeah.
I wasn't invested in how Rigsy didn't do it because the evidence was not sufficiently damning.
Mhm.
I occasionally have enjoyed a reverse murder mystery where it is your character appears to have done something terrible. Let's find out how they didn't. Let's find out why all of this information that makes it look like the character is guilty does not mean they're guilty.
Mhm.
And my problem was all this information was so obviously circumstantial. And in fact, we saw that on discovering the body, he dropped his phone.
Are you going to really be surprised by a body that you just murdered?
Exactly. Like, her blood was on his phone. There was no implication he might have phoned her to death. He just walked by, discovered the body, dropped the phone. So all that did, how do we prove Rigsy did it? there was not a stake for me in it, because as much as this is a character I don't mind spending time with, not my first choice of who to bring back from that season, Rusty.
Yeah,
but
Rusty for sure.
as much as I don't dislike Rigsy the character,
Yeah.
but
Riggsy's actor, whose name I do not know, ta-da, he had a moment that I saw it again recently, which was really unconvincing specifically, where someone's like, murderer, and he's like, he called me a murderer. And there's a particularly bad line reading that stuck with me
Yeah.
now that I've seen it again. Rigsy is mostly fine though, his actor is.
yeah.
The earlier part of the episode, where we don't know what's going on, where we're looking for the secret street, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to expect. But then once we have the mystery, it's not a good one, and we're stuck with it.
Yeah, we're stuck with a reverse mystery with no stakes.
Yeah. Now, if this were actually just what the episode were, and there weren't the thing with Clara, I might have given this might have been the worst episode of the season, D+ or something.
I wouldn't have given it a D+, but I certainly wouldn't. It would not have cracked C-.
Because it wouldn't have anything.
Yeah.
But this is a story about Clara making a decision.
Yeah,
And that
that's
story is actually great. It's well done. We see her taking risks at the beginning. We come in after an adventure we'll never get to see, in which she took crazy risks, and
the doctor disapproved.
the doctor disapproves
And
without ever saying it.
Yeah, and there's that, offhand like, oh man, she sure needs to stop taking crazy risks. Yeah, tell me about it.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
an example.
However, right before that was the scene where she was dangling out of the TARDIS, and I was super worried. And then I saw that she wasn't, and there was that moment of dissonance, which you can't help but notice.
Yeah.
And then when it's important later, you have to admire that they were able to just show me how extremely she had become a daredevil.
Yeah, yeah, and here's the thing with this, like as you say, and this is the reason. You're right. It does not deserve an A. I have it as a B-.
Mm-hmm.
Originally had it as a B- too, but I think for a different reason. I'm not sure. This was okay. So it's something that a lot of Doctor Who finales lately have done, which I think is kind of a necessity when you have a show which is so much Monster of the Week, the way Doctor Who is, almost purely Monster of the Week. There is no myth arc, really, even in the seasons with myth arcs.
Yeah.
Where the Doctor is consistently working towards goal.
Which is something I would really like to see. Some seasons where the Doctor is working towards goals. They dabbled in it with the 6th season with Matt Smith, where he's trying to figure out what's going on with Amy. But on the other hand, we don't actually really follow his.
Yep, he just kept
thought
going
process.
through Monster of the Weeks and then adding a.
Oh,
and
by
here's
the
my
way,
note.
things are still weird, but I won't explain why, even to you, the audience.
Yep.
But like, they could use that because a motivated character is one I care more about.
Yeah, and here's an example about that. By the way, think about.
I really wanted him to try to find Gallifrey as a continuous arc.
Yeah.
But they never did that.
Yeah, and so talking about that Amy thing, like here's just an example of part of why I like that talking to the camera, see the Doctor's in a thought thing. Imagine if, and I guess this would have to be Capaldi, but maybe Smith could pull it off. The Flesh episode, not the best episode ever.
No.
Imagine if that episode starts with basically him monologuing almost exactly why they're going there. Not
To the camera.
Yeah, not specifically saying it, being like, there is, have you ever just felt somebody was different and you can't tell why?
Mm-hmm.
You can't see why, but you know there's something wrong. Like, have you, establishing this theme
Yeah.
and then going into that episode.
It's also abstract enough. I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you finish. Abstract enough that you think maybe it's a weird setup for just the Rebel Flesh's internal story, the one that we leave behind, those characters.
Yeah.
But actually, it's about Amy.
Yeah, it's about Amy, and it's about him telling us why this episode's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Myth Arc versus season story of the week, if you're not gonna have a Myth Arc, I'm not gonna jump down your throat on it.
Yeah.
I would not mind a Myth Arc. At the very least, I'd like a continuous story arc where the Doctor may not need this specific goal, but even if it is save people, I want him to go out and be looking for people to save. His method occasionally seems to be just show up and hope of disasters occur. So with this story, here's the thing that has happened in all the season finales. What they need to do, since they don't have myth arcs very much, is they need to have the Doctor show up for what appears to be a normal monster of the week, and gradually it becomes the myth arc. He sees that this is too big to handle in one single episode.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you need to give me a monster of the week that I am invested in continuing to see. An example, a perfect example, those Ghost Cybermen. I was not invested in the Ghost Cybermen.
From season 2?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care. So the fact that the Ghost Cybermen was the apparent monster of the week, I don't care that... Doctor, could you not be doing something more interesting right now? And so you can't dismiss the monster of the week aspect. The monster of the week aspect was this really terrible mystery.
Yeah, that was today's show.
Yeah, which we didn't care enough about this
Yep.
to do. Now, the Clara aspect was well done, and Clara, and there's also, we never believed we're not going to see that Riggsy's fine. Clara does the "I'm going to help you out" thing. That was good. I liked that it was her decision. I also liked that her decision was not to run away. Her decision was not to save Riggsy, which I've seen some commentary on the assumption her decision was to sacrifice herself to save Riggsy.
Oh no! I mean, she specifically states that she doesn't expect to die.
No,
because she's clever, she won't die.
Yes, her decision.
She's genre savvy, but she's forgotten which character she is.
Yeah,
actually, you said that after the episode too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I would assume it's true. She thinks she's the Doctor. She's the sidekick. The sidekick can die.
Sometimes when you have subtle little bits of like metafictional, almost self-awareness, you can find new territory for a story. Like in this case, where you examine what is a companion, what is a Doctor, and it's emotionally effective and meaningful.
Yeah. So all in all, the biggest problem with this episode, as you say, was the fact that this mystery I didn't care about.
Yeah.
And they tried to abbreviate it, which made it even worse. So there were no other suspects. The only other suspect was really Lady Me, because she was the only other character in this story.
Yeah.
It's like...
Lo and behold, she's guilty.
It's like, you walk into a room where there's a dead body and another person in the room. Sure, they're not holding a gun, but they have, throughout your story, they are literally the only person you could suspect. Shock of shocks, it was them.
I will say this. I wouldn't have seen the motive coming, but then again, it wasn't really a motive that was discussed as a thing during that episode.
No.
Because it was just sort of, I guess that turns out to be the case.
Yep. So they established the importance she places on protecting the people. And
yeah, that's all right. Yeah,
that was good, and I like how that calls back to the previous Lady Me story. It's just that
I love that I do like that she's still the antagonist, despite the things that she seemed to have learned.
Yep.
Just now she's protecting people.
Yeah, she's an antagonist for a good reason.
Yeah. Just because we had our thing where I agreed with you and we teamed up doesn't mean I'm on your team.
Yeah, and
I'm not your companion, as you say.
And I wonder whose companion she is. But the situation as she appears to be in it is one where she is having to make a hard choice, and she makes the hard choice, and the hard choice screws us over. So she is the antagonist without being a villain, which is previously in the previous story she was the antagonist and the villain. Really.
Yeah.
And she reformed, and now she's the antagonist and not the villain. She's the antagonist for a reason that I think even the Doctor would be able to get behind. He would say, okay, I imagine...
I get it.
If she was
you could have told me and maybe I would have actually just done this.
Yeah, but, he would...
And then in the final story, she's not an antagonist or a villain, she's just sort of hanging out.
Yeah, she is doing the mysterious person thing. Now,
yeah.
Moving on...
Oh yeah, Clara's death scene.
Oh yeah, Clara. Good.
was effective. And the fact that they later reverse it, I watched it again recently, it does impact it a little. It does feel a little less important. And that's a shame. But not as much as some people would have you believe. Because Clara still made those decisions. And
Yeah.
she will still face that death eventually.
I rewatched it myself. I didn't feel the same way.
Okay.
Because to me it was that she made that decision to face her death and accept. Here's the thing. She made the decision to face her death and accept her role in the story, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And thus, she was, the only way she got out of it was by being given a new role in her story.
Yeah. That's
And-
pretty interesting.
And so she accepted.
By becoming the Doctor.
Yeah.
sort of.
So she accepted that the companion can die, moved on with it, and the only way she got out was when she became the Doctor.
Yeah,
And-
with her own TARDIS and companion and everything.
Yep. And made, again, a different decision to be the Doctor, but not until when she had the ability to be the Doctor, when she was immortal, basically. The end of the universe expect the company of immortals. Now.
So, on we go to Heaven Sent. I originally gave this an A-. I'm now giving it an S. This is a truly exceptional episode. I watched it again just a couple days ago. It is a gorgeous episode to look at. It is gorgeously designed, and as far as sound goes, the music is striking, almost hammy, but not quite, and works well. It's a beautifully designed thing, and the montage at the end is an essential Doctor moment, the likes of which Capaldi has not had.
Yeah.
And brings the episode together in a satisfying way. This would be an episode I would watch when I wanted sort of a, I don't know,
You just want to watch a good story.
I want to watch something that is going to completely put me in a great mood. And the only negative note I can really find for it is that I want to go back in time, kill the editor, and take his place. Because editing this would have been so much fun.
Yeah. So, now, I originally gave this a B+, because I was so afraid I liked it so much only because it was watching it.
Because it was recontextualized Doctor Who,
Yeah.
as you said, and we weren't sure if that was
And
fair.
I actually, this is part of why I didn't try to jump until the end of there, because I wrote A+ down here, and I was kind of waiting to see, because I was thinking an S, but I was assuming maybe there was a good criticism in here. I still was afraid that I liked it too much, so I wrote it A+, but S. This was one of the, it was just one of the best stories. One of the best hours of television
Yeah.
I have seen in a long time.
It certainly made good use of its extra 10 minutes or something,
Yeah,
because it was nearly actually an hour.
yeah. So,
The villain is a quintessentially slow monster. All the TV screens, no detail felt. Some details felt not like the most important details, but
Mhm.
no detail felt stupid or a wasted idea that shouldn't even have been there. For an episode which is basically about evading something that's usually pretty easy to evade, they kept the action, actually, despite the wandering, pretty good.
pretty tight.
With the going into the TARDIS being a recurring thing,
Mm-hmm.
like there was a lot going on in a lot of ways. Where it's like, okay, so here's something we learned about the Doctor, and it's great because he's on his own, and now suddenly he's trying to not be on his own in his, when he focuses on the problem.
Yep.
There are so many things which feel better when you know the shape of the episode.
Yep.
Here's something I thought was clever. He steps out of the teleporter at the beginning of the episode. He's like, I don't know who you are, what you had to do with the death of Clara, but if you blah 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 blah, but you should be afraid because I'm coming for you.
Yep.
And I will never stop. And then the episode is about something coming for him and never stopping.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, it's been inverted.
A zygote inversion.
But then at the end, he comes out and says it again. And because I didn't understand that he was breaking down the diamond wall,
Yeah.
I'm talking about when he
Yeah, yeah.
reincarnates himself for the first
Yeah,
time
yeah.
that we see. Because I didn't know that he was breaking down the diamond wall, I thought that the message was, look how helpless he is. Look how he is trapped and just completely incapable of winning because he's just trapped in a loop. But then once you know that he's breaking down the diamond wall, you realize yes, he is coming for them and he won't stop. He just doesn't really know the meaning of his words. It's been flipped.
Yep, it's great. It's great. Definitely Ness.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, final story, the grand finale.
Well, I do want to say
sorry.
just a couple more things.
Oh no.
Things that I said after the episode, but things I want to reiterate because in case people aren't necessarily watching everything, which is the gorgeous cinematography and editing means that final montage, every image feels fresh, every image reminds you of the time he was there, and you can feel his experience of time, these however many days, over and over and over again. And as it gets more and more rapid, you can feel time speeding up. You can feel billions of years. It's a conceptual episode, an episode about a massive. It's like Inception in this one respect, that it is a big, bombastic, explosive. Whoa! Look at that episode, just on a conceptual level. Yeah. Isn't it incredible that he is really doing this for 4 billion years?
Yeah. Now here is my question for you.
Yes.
Because I was still a little bit unsure when I rewatched it. Did you the thing I said about the digging?
Yes.
Did you happen to pay attention to that?
Yeah.
Was I right on it?
Well, I didn't look up what they did, but you were correct. He was clearly he was lowering faster than he could be if it were an actual unretouched, unaffected shot.
Yeah. Or if it was a single shot and he just was on a platform, which was my...
Well, of course, but then they'd have to digitally cover up the platform.
Yeah.
They would have to digitally retouch it. If what we were seeing was literally what happened within that space of time, it would not be possible. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
The scene where he's digging, he's clearly... the hole is getting deeper faster than he could be digging it. But that works fine. It works great.
Yep.
Those are my thoughts.
Good. Now, moving on
To the finale.
Hellbent.
Hellbent. Now, I overshot this one. I gave it an A+. I was riding the high. This is an A-. It's a solid story. It's hard to get around the fact that most of the story is we get to the final scene.
Yep.
There's not that much that happens, and usually when I mean that, that's a pretty bad criticism. But mostly it's about he gets to the end, and then the decisions start being made.
Yep.
But we don't even know for most of it what the stakes are.
Yeah, and
those sound pretty severe, but it has so many other good things going for it. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, because this is a huge difference between us on this one. And I'm going to justify my thing first. I did give it an A to start with. Now I'm going to justify this. I'm going to explain my justification. Rewatching it, I felt, I may have been wrong, I'm willing to accept I may have been wrong. My experience of Doctor Who is obviously subjective, because I can only see from within my head. It seemed to me like the show was... It's just kind of weird, and maybe this not... I understand that... I'm saying this is a really shaky idea, but it's just how it felt to me. The show wanted me to feel the desperation of the Doctor by... I thought it was... I felt like consciously trying to trick me into thinking they were making terrible decisions.
True.
So I gave it, and then tying it all together, sort of as in the situation that everything does work out. Like the Doctor does have an out, but it's not what he thinks it is. I thought they were doing this to the audience, counting on their experience the last several years of Doctor Who, to think that this is going to be a terrible episode. So I gave it an S for that.
Oh, you gave it an S.
A second S. And I'm aware that it is S for subjective here. I thought they were trying to make me play with my expectations in such a way that I was my fear that originally I was just watching and I was like, do you really know what you're doing? Okay, that was actually really good. You knew what you're doing. The second time rewatching it, it seemed to me like they were trying to make me say, that was the reaction they were going for, is consciously trying to make me.
Okay, so you're saying that it should be considered as a work of art that is concerned with manipulating expectations, and therefore it should be praised on those grounds.
Manipulating expectations and placing the audience in a similar mind state to the character, because the character has something he loves a lot and is afraid of losing it. And in the end, in a way, doesn't. The audience, has something that I love a lot this season of Doctor Who. And they are making me afraid of losing it by doing things that seem like terrible ideas. And so they are making me feel the frustration and desperation of the Doctor is at losing something that was important to him. So, in that respect, the way that it just felt like they did so good with that to me, metafictionally, I'm giving it the yes.
Okay. Let me talk about some of the things I liked, because I talked about the primary problems. Gallifrey is a bit irrelevant, which is weird, but the main problem is not the fact that Gallifrey is irrelevant, but just that there wasn't necessarily something particularly exciting to go in its place.
Yep.
Gallifrey is not the point. I know a lot of people I saw complaining about the episode was like, Gallifrey didn't play a part.
Gallifrey doesn't have to play a part.
Gallifrey doesn't have to play a part. The story wasn't about Gallifrey. It was about the Doctor trying to bring back Clara. And the most I could criticize it...
He just happened to do it on Gallifrey. And
the most I could criticize it is that we're not in on the plan.
Yep.
So we don't have that kind of investment initially.
Yeah, and here's the thing about... when he said I need an extraction chamber, I was like, oh, he's just going to screw them and steal Clara. But here's the thing I'd say about Gallifrey didn't play a part. Sure, Gallifrey did not play a part, but imagine we're taking for done up to this moment in the series, which obviously is not a good, but the way I see it,
it's not a what?
Not always a good way to do. Just say up to now everything can't have changed, but just for the sake of argument, say that, because I'm talking about like the fan perspective.
Okay.
Who else could it have been
to bring back Clara after that?
To bring back Clara, or more accurately, just who else could have wanted the Doctor's confession dial and not be wanting to kill him? Who else could where else could this story happen? It's not a story about Gallifrey. Gallifrey plays a part in that it is the only place that you could set this story.
Mm-hmm. Also, I guess maybe, unlike some other fans, I don't necessarily care that much about Gallifrey. I've never been there.
I don't really care that much either. It's where the Doctor's from, and in that sense, it matters. It's a little bit like in Star Trek Vulcan, the planet Vulcan. I know enough about the planet Vulcan that if Vulcan is totally destroyed, I feel kind of sad about that. At the same time, I don't think every story on Vulcan needs to be about the Vulcan culture, and specifically like certain types of... I think that is what you're talking about. The fans are going into it saying that this is what a story about Gallifrey needs to be.
Well, that's the problem. They went in it deciding what story they wanted to be, and I think that's a huge critical mistake. If you want to actually attack a story, you need to take it on its own, not attack, like it has connotations that I don't mean. If you want to judge a story fairly, you have to take it on its own terms. And that doesn't mean the marketing's terms either. While you're watching the episode, you have to recalibrate what the story is trying to accomplish as you go, and while you determine whether it's achieving that.
Yeah, that I think is when you say that, I think is an important thing that you have to do from a critical perspective. And when you talk about a critical perspective, you can go in with expectations. You can even go in wanting to not like it. I don't care. But you can't judge it by the standard you went in on.
Mm-hmm.
If you told me this episode was going to bring back Clara, I would have said, I don't want to see that.
I guess I'll watch it in like a few days.
Or I was said, if I didn't have to do this for the review, I probably wouldn't be watching it.
Yeah.
But
That sounds like such a shit idea.
yeah, but they surprised me, and that's part of what I said about S's earlier. They said if you totally
S is for surprise.
if you make a story better than I think anyone could make,
Yeah.
you get the. So yeah,
So Clara comes back. They basically sort of mock and make fun of the Time Lord system on a
Yeah.
fundamental level. Sorry, one last thing. I'm glad that the Gallifrey's back, because maybe now we can just have some stories with Time Lord villains or Time Lord characters. Some stories on Gallifrey.
yeah.
They don't have to be big deals. They don't have to be finales. Just, hey,
The Doctor.
the Ronnie. That's a villain I've
Yeah.
never seen. But the Ronnie is just doing this crazy shit on Gallifrey, or like
The Ronnie's
off
being
somewhere.
a dick, or
Like, let's go deal with that. What?
here's this new Time Lord, the descriptor,
You know, why not?
the job title.
Rassilon comes back and he's pissed.
Yeah.
And like, this is his little scheme. Doesn't have to be a big deal. I love that. I love it when things don't have to be a big deal, because this is a variety show. Lots of different kinds.
I think variety show is actually
Variety
a type of
show
TV
is
show.
a very specific kind of show. It is a show with variety.
This was secretly laughing the whole time.
This is, mix it up. You
Yeah.
don't take certain things more seriously than others. But sorry, going back to the story. Clara comes back, and that's where, the episode kicks in properly. So their escape makes sense, and it's perfectly fun. And there's not really that much left, though, at that point.
Yep.
They go meet with Lady Me, and then they make an important decision, and they make it on equal terms.
Yep.
They each decide to press this button.
Yep.
A lot of button pressing in this season, and especially button pressing when two people's wills are important,
Yep.
and they might be in conflict.
Oh, another way that was set up.
This is a season about setting shit up.
Yeah, this was almost every episode set something up in an important way, and at the same time, pretty much every episode here, ended up doing it all. It was its own story well too, with a couple exceptions.
Yeah.
So
And to some extent, I'd say my grade for this episode probably bumped up by at least 2 designations. So it would be like B+ to A, for instance.
Yep.
That ending where Clara is flying around the universe with Lady Me in a diner is really funny, and feels affectionate towards Doctor Who in a way that you should be affectionate towards Doctor Who. Hey, isn't this whole TARDIS thing not having a proper disguise circuit absurd? Isn't this silly? And
was hilarious.
Wouldn't you like to have more silliness in the universe? Isn't this more satisfying than her just being dead? And I'm like, yeah, I forgive you for bringing her back.
And isn't Clara was becoming the Doctor the whole story, her whole story arc?
Yeah.
And her story arc ends with her becoming the Doctor in the only way that she can become the Doctor, with the Doctor
Leaving her off.
Yeah, with the Doctor.
Or rather, her flying away.
Yeah, with her leaving the Doctor, which is what we've seen Ashilda talk about, how the Doctor always does that. The Doctor leaves his companions.
But now.
Yeah, now.
She leaves him.
His companion is the one who's leaving. And Ashilda is a companion to Clara.
Yeah. And now we see why the whole season, without ever really having them, gel or have any particular chemistry, we've always been aware of the fact that Ashilda has some sort of interest in Clara.
Yep, and here's an interesting way of seeing this.
Yeah.
Well, remember she immediately recognized Clara, even though she doesn't recognize the name Ashilda.
Yep.
So here's a thing I find interesting. Okay. Ashilda has, promised to be constantly keeping her eye on the Doctor. She says that. Clara is becoming the Doctor, which means, in a certain extent, Ashilda becomes the ultimate companion, and Clara becomes largely the spirit of the Doctor, the spirit of the excitement and the adventure.
In that she could be the Doctor and without being the Doctor.
And
that's how much the Doctor she's become.
And neither of them can die. Mm-hmm. And they're in this big flashy diner, which means that their TARDIS is kind of an exaggeration of what the TARDIS is, always out of place. So they are kind of an archetype of the entire show.
Yeah, you're right.
So good job, good ending, good season.
Oh, but I forgot.
Yes.
The thing I was saying about the Doctor talking to the camera,
Yeah.
the Bootstrap Paradox, I just thought that it was interesting seeing that maybe contextualized by Heaven Sent,
Yep.
where he is shown to be talking to people in the his mental TARDIS,
Yep.
which is not precisely the same thing because he's talking to the camera, and is that really likely to be Clara?
No,
Maybe.
the way, like I said, the way he did
Yeah.
talk to her doesn't matter.
He's there in the TARDIS, he's communicating. This is his mental zone. We've now had it established that he has a mental zone. So of course he can talk to the camera in
Yep.
that, because he always needs an audience, as he says in the episode.
Yep. So,
No.
another thing
Yeah?
I forgot to say, which I've been meaning to say about Hellbent.
Yes.
And I've said this, I think, like on Facebook or something. I don't think I said it in the video. The recovery of the sonic screwdriver.
Oh yeah, we didn't
The reason I love it so much is because the Doctor needs to be the Doctor becomes a theme of the episode. And thus, recovering the sonic screwdriver becomes a sign that the Doctor is re-becoming the Doctor. If you'd asked me, before, I would have said I like the sunglasses better. I don't want them gone. But
now they've wrapped it up. They've made it part of the story. When
Yeah, they
before it
worked
was just
it
a
in.
joke.
yeah, they worked in the getting rid of the
Yeah.
sunglasses as a satisfying point.
Yep. Because I like the sunglasses because they're the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just, I like the little joke of, well, isn't it is this really more silly guys than the wand?
Yeah,
And he's trying to be the aging rocker, is what you always say.
he is.
I mean,
And
he is
he
he's
literally
not
is.
trying to be.
He is literally an aging rock. That is what Peter Capaldi is.
And it's a great contrast with last season where he was a noticeably similar but slightly different
Much
person.
more severe person.
Yeah. This one
In the previous season, he was trying to be respectable. In this season, he's given up on that.
Yeah, but he's got that rocker thing going, and it feels him.
Yeah.
And without actually disrespecting Capaldi as the Doctor, this ending suggests that still there's something to be said for the sonic screwdriver as a piece of tradition,
Yeah.
and as something doctorish.
Yep.
So the sunglasses were a bit of ego,
Yeah.
or something that weren't quite the Doctor.
Yeah.
And the ways in which Capaldi fails to be the Doctor has been the thing ever since he showed up.
Adding all my grades up, this all comes out to a B+ season.
I didn't add
Actually, a B season. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And adding all Sam's up, it comes to
Right there.
good answer.
It's a good answer.
So we had fun. If we like. While I love the idea that Doctor Who's always changing, and I'd love to see a new showrunner get his hands on it, this was an amazing story, and if Moffat can keep up
Yeah.
seasons of this quality, go for it.
This is what I posted on Facebook, and I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah.
I feel like he is the aging former star athlete of
Yeah.
some team. And you feel like you should get rid of him, because there's no way he can be playing well at this point.
Yeah.
And yet, he seems to be playing really well. Like, what do you do with him?
It's Peyton Manning on the Colts.
Why not? But
Sports!
But what you do with him is you keep him on until the next time he screws up. So if season 10 is a disappointment, I'd say get rid of him immediately.
Yeah.
If you had a choice to work like that, which you probably don't.
I don't, I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm just a
even
fan.
there's no particular person I'd say who necessarily is in a position like politically / within the
Probably the head of BBC could do it, but
yeah,
still.
who is going to just say, "Oh, Moffat, you're out." But but as soon as he messes up, I want him replaced. Until then, I want to see this streak continue because I thought season 8 was also good.
Yeah.
Not quite as good as this one, but we didn't grade those. So
So we will be back for the Christmas episode.
yep. We'll take a look.
This is, as you saw, a two-parter.
Yeah.
So that should bring us to around the time of the Christmas episode, 3 weeks from now, about.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But stay tuned to Bird Brain Productions.
All right.
Signing off.
Rock and roll.